So we have Akila Chandrasekhar, who is the CMO of Organic India. Please, if you can join us here, Akila. And can you please all welcome her with a round of applause? We also have Abhishek Joshi. Please have a seat. He leads e-commerce, sales and marketing for Sanjay Godawat Group. If you can please warmly welcome him. We have Aruna Jathar, who is the CMO of Tender Cards. Welcome, Aruna. We have Pradanya Popad, who is the Marcom head of Samsonite South Asia. If you can please warmly welcome her. We also have Prerna Tikku, who is the GM brand marketing for MTR Foods. Nishant Podar, who is the CMO and head of retail experience for USPL. And finally, Dhruv Siani, who is the MD of C Sigma Lifestyles. Thank you very much for joining us here, and what a stellar panel. Please give him a huge round of applause. So just to put the discussion in context, and of course, this is one of the panels where I would want a lot of participation from all of you as well. So if you have questions, please feel free to ask in between, because I think that's what this discussion is going to be about. We want to understand, what is it that moves the needle for e-commerce for you, and therefore be able to take those questions on as well. But Akila, let me start with you. One thing I've noticed, even the biggest of brands like Titan Jewelry have been telling since morning is that digital marketing is not cheap. In fact, the cost of customer acquisition on digital is far, far higher. Sometimes, so they say ignorance is bliss, and we were happy when we didn't know what was the cost of acquisition in a physical world. But now that we know and we have all that data, it really makes us perspire just thinking about how much money we are putting out there, and therefore puts a lot of responsibility on you to sort of sweat the investments that you're doing. So, how are today you as a marketer looking at customer acquisition cost as a main component of your digital marketing spend? What is it that you really look into?
Thank you. Thank you for having me here. Am I audible?
Yes.
Okay. I think to answer your question, one of the important shifts that have happened as digital marketers, we'll all know, and I also come from a background of conventional marketing, I'm an ex-Titan person myself, is that, conventional marketing was actually favoring the mass marketing people. When you had to market to a niche audience or with a niche product, the cost of acquisition was actually higher because there was so much wastage. I think what digital marketing is really, and now with Organic India, where there is a philosophy to be sold, there is, ethos to be sold, and there's a product benefit, information-led product to be sold to a niche audience, digital marketing is actually a boon. And if you're really careful about where you're targeting these people, where they're going, it's become much easier. And the investment has better returns than for a brand like Organic India to have gone mass.
Right. And do you think in that sense, brands have been able to directly maximize themselves out there, put themselves out there, because obviously at some point of time they were always expecting retailers to do it for them, because you didn't know how to tell the customer where to go and buy your product. So how has that changed?
The other investment I think that you tend to save on is the whole feet on the ground and the distribution. Right. So brands like Organic India would largely be in modern trade, which were few and far in between. And then the decline of modern trade also thankfully coincided with the rise of, digital as a medium where you could be present, or e-commerce. So I think it was just a shift in the platform for niche brands. And if anything, I think for a brand that has so much to say and is targeting a very specific kind of mindset, I think digital marketing has allowed you to find out where these people are specifically and talk to them. Because I remember in conventional marketing, when we had to speak to a niche consumer, we would attack the Citibank database. I think that was about as far as we got to targeting the niche consumer. So I think we've come a long way from there.
Sure. Anybody in the panel who wants to sort of add something to this?
Yeah.
Go on.
So I think we need to take a little step back in understanding what type of a category also we are in. The category which will have a fast, emotional, and intuitive purchase will have a different acquisition cost than a category like ours, which is more slower, deliberative, and logical reasoning while purchasing it. So for Samsonite, mainly into the luggage and a backpack, the purchase happens between 3 to 5 years, and that's the purchasing cycle. So most of our consumers are 90% of them, at least on e-commerce, are the new consumers. And we are trying to do a lot of understanding of the profiling of the consumer. But the most low-hanging fruit, which has been working for us, and our acquisition cost is around 7-8%, which is decent at this point in time, is because we are doing in-market audience targeting. And this in-market audience targeting we get mainly from the audience buying, from third-party data, and also through the funnel analysis, where dropout consumers we are retargeting, and the look-alike customers who have dropped out we are retargeting. So that's basically to bring down the acquisition cost and build upon the larger base of the consumers.
I think, CAC is definitely a concern in D2C brands' mind, and she rightly said that there are a lot of techniques that you can use depending upon the category. The bigger thing to think, and Tender Cuts is in the omni-channel space, so D2C plus physical stores. What you have to realize is what stage the brand is really in. Instead of fretting about only the CAC, yes, you have a marketing budget, and how do you want to spread that marketing budget at what stage your brand is? If it's at an awareness and consideration stage, obviously your spends on acquisition are going to be higher. But is that acquisition spend really leading to your conversions into the funnel, the L1M and L2M in our case, is very critical to notice. What I've also seen is at an awareness stage, if you're going all out, and you were talking about traditional marketing does take away from, helps to reduce the CAC for awareness, and we've seen that happen, and really supports digital marketing because you have your number of searches and visits going up, and which supports all your performance marketing activities or gimmicks that we do really to nudge the customer. So I feel what's important to remember about CAC is what stage the brand is in. If you're at the starting stage and you're really completely digital, you will have CAC, but is it included within the budget you're wanting? And what are the ways you are really retaining that customer? Because that also is a proof of whether your acquisition was right. So to me, I feel that's an important journey. We really get too involved in the whole CAC piece instead of saying, okay, if when I was a traditional marketer, I had a X budget, which was, let's say, 2% of the turnover or 5% of the turnover, you can still keep it to that and say, but my spends are going to go more towards digital and on really performance marketing, because that's where I'm getting my customers from. It's about really understanding that, is what I would say.
Yeah, so I just want to add one more perspective. I think today we can't look at digital as an isolated space, right? We're all very seamlessly integrated into the space as consumers as well. And that same fact applies to brands as well. For a mass brand like MTR, we reach 9 out of 10 households in Karnataka. There is no such thing as an isolated or single channel where the entire purchase loop is happening in a linear fashion, right? And especially so in digital, because at every stage, there are brands or categories which are more loyalty-led, and where there is less of experimentation, while then there are categories where there's more experimentation. So digital marketing or e-commerce plays different roles in the consumer life cycle as far as acquisition is concerned. In certain cases, it could just be an awareness-driving platform. In other cases, it could build trials where you are just trying out a product for the very first time. In certain cases, it's a regular purchase where I know that this is my sought-after brand, and I find it here on this platform and I buy it. So as a consumer, you're not really in a linear space when it comes to, and the businesses like some of the speakers spoke, that you can't look at it in isolation. It's a journey, and it's so well integrated in between the offline and the online world that you can't necessarily only look at customer acquisition cost on the e-commerce platform if you're really looking at it, because at every stage you are adding value to the brand and consumer. What's important, however, is that at every stage you're very clear what you're driving and what is the objective you're driving through. That clarity of the objective is very critical for a business to really move forward.
Sure. Yeah, I think you're totally right there. You want to add something? Yes. Okay, please go on.
Yes, you are absolutely right. Acquisition costs are getting higher and higher day by day. And a brand like us, like Ghodawat Consumers, we are into the FMCG. So ASP, average selling price, is very important for us. And we are selling low ASP SKUs over the all e-com platforms. So how we can overcome from this factor that would it we increase the ASP of our SKU and compensate the acquisition? So these are few parameters on which we are measuring our cost of acquisition and ROI. And definitely new to brand customers are very important. So when we are talking about new to brand, it plays a very important role in terms of marketing. And it is absolutely right, it is a journey. You cannot start in a day and end in a month. So it is a 6-month, a year journey where you can maintain your acquisition. So thank you.
Yeah, go on.
Well, I'd just like to add that our brand, KT Professional, so we're primarily in the beauty business with a keratin protein-focused hair care solution brand. Our journey is slightly more different purely because we supply products that are beauty-oriented and targeted largely to every sector and every city. We make products for every sector and city because in India you largely see water and weather conditions change every 100 kilometers. I have 5 leading successful women on the platform with me here today, and each of them have a different hair texture and and a different type of product that they need for their own hair solution. So for us, client acquisition cost is more towards educating the client and giving them the right information about product, because we still live in a country where we largely believe that the right hair solutions come from the West, which is really not true, because I don't think Paris can tell you exactly what India needs in terms of the hair texture and our kind of culture here. And that's where we've really come and started this brand a few years ago, present across 27,000 salons. So even when people are purchasing these products in salons, they really use e-commerce to check the trustworthiness of the product, the availability of the product online as well. The sale may happen offline in the salon, but they would still check the reviews that would be online and the credit history of the product. So I think, again, as someone rightly did mention, that it is an omnipresent situation for most brands today, not only in the beauty sector, but even otherwise, where the online-offline mix has to be very well integrated for the client to have a complete experience.
Sure. Also now that we're talking about this, we've also, another point that sort of comes in is the understanding the data. And particularly for, I think, FMCG players, this data was very hard to get from distributors or, your retailers in the fashion that you're now able to drive it. So what are the data points that, particularly you have been able to amass that are very interesting and have also formed basis of decisions for you in marketing? So let's start with you.
So there are many parameters on which we have analyzed the customer requisition. How customer looking at the product, how he wants to buy it, and whether he is looking for the price or whether he is looking for the brand availability on the platform. These all are the parameters which can influence the decision of the customer. So these are the basic things which we have observed into the data. Yes, you are absolutely right. In offline market, it is hard for us to understand what a customer require. But in our online, we received all the basic information about the customer who bought our product, at what prices, and at what parameters he were looking at his requisition. So in such a way, we can analyze the whole online data. about the customer.
Sure. Anybody who wants to give a...
So like you mentioned in traditional FMCG organization, it would be when you're targeting, and some of you who've worked in the offline media space, it's largely a demographic targeting, right? You go by the age, gender, geography, and that's how. I think the single biggest change that has happened now is that you're really able to target on the basis of behaviors, lifestyles, attitudes. So there is a far more one-on-one connection that a brand is able to. So the data is adding a lot of value there. The other thing which also does, digital data does very beautifully, and that's where I think D2C presence also comes in play, because as you're building, your presence across the marketplaces and different e-commerce platforms, you're also, if you are present in a D2C space, you're able to create profiles of consumers. You're able to create, put them in different segments and, do a more meaningful segmentation of consumers. So that's a very important element that digital data has sort of brought in, which was way tougher and way more expensive to do in offline space as well.
Correct.
Yeah, I'd like to add to that. So we say customer is king. It's become customer data is king now, right? So because you can do a lot with the data, you're observing the cohorts when he's coming into your, as a new customer and an existing customer, what actions you need to take at each cohort of his life cycle to really look at his lifetime value, that becomes important. So that's one data point that we definitely look at, his lifetime value, and hence again coming back to cost of customer acquisition, right? Because if you are really journeying his lifetime value over 12 months or 24 months, your CAC, the way you look at CAC will change. That's the other thing that we look at. I think what's also important, and adding to what's already been said, is customer segmentation and media planning. Whether you're doing media planning for a digital platform or for the traditional platform, and in our case, we do both, the kind of psychographics and media behavior you can get because you have this data becomes very, very easy and seamless, and you're able to do the right targeting, even if it is, above the line that you're doing. So that's the second benefit that I feel of having this customer's data is king. Third is, of course, the traditional way you want to cross-sell, you want to nudge him, you want to get him to buy now, and all those ways that you want to convert him now when he comes onto your channel and your D2C becomes very easy because you're looking at his past history or looking at the lookalikes.
Yeah.
So that's what I feel really it boils down to. Finally, you are trying to sell to him, and whatever journey becomes easier with digital marketing and social media is what I
Sure. And what nudges are, what nudges have one been able to do, or a brand been able to do, particularly with the data that gets collected, which works also?
So, well, to add to that point, I'd like to say that as companies, we also need to learn the art of minimalizing the data we take and the social responsibility of us as enterprises. Because, yes, while data is truly king, and it's only going to increase with every passing day and every passing year, the way brands will nudge, will reach out, will make the client believe purely that the product that they want them to buy is in their advantage. But at the same time, it is important that we minimalize and respect that privacy, and I think that's the company's policy and prerogative to set the tone right. Because I feel that as responsible organizations, the right way forward is not only to have a social impact, but to also have a very personal value-based impact. Because I come from the school of thought of Rabindranath Tagore, who very wisely said that everything comes to you that belongs to you if you have the capacity to receive it. And I think that is the capacity that this data has been creating to allow us to reach out to our customers, create a very personal engagement, but of course, when done socially correct.
Sure.
I would like to say something on our data, because see, each data today digital is divided into, say, you have e-commerce platform, you have Google, you have social, and then you have WhatsApp, where the store guys are reaching out to the consumers, with one-on-one relationship basis. So typically we used to, what insights specifically you can get through store guys in terms of what is the entry into a Samsonite, and that's something which is really eye-opening to us, that we have a backpack, we have cabin, and we have a large 2 check-in bags, but although we are selling medium and check-in bags, the entry point to us is from the cabin luggage, And once the person buys the cabin luggage, then his journey starts on buying more luggage and more different luggage or the backpack. This is something which we have got from the store level. If you look at a Google performance on a funnel level analysis, that data is going to give you who is in market, who is the low-hanging fruit for you, who is planning for a travel and therefore can become your potential consumer. In terms of Amazon or a Flipkart is going to give you really rich data on consumer purchase behavior. And that's something which you cannot get on other platforms. And there are CPC, CPM campaign which can be optimized in Amazon, and you can get that rich data. And lastly, social commerce is going to become really big, and one needs to see the psychographics, the behavior in terms of, what the person likes, what is he interacting with, what are the trending topics, how you can have the conversation, and therefore coming to the nudging the consumer. When coming to when you look at each platform, even the nudge cannot happen every point in time. We apply a see, think, do, care strategy, which is basically a Google's module only. So you divide the audience between all these platforms, whether they are in which journey, whether they are just searching and discovering the product. So you will have a nudge. And out there, the nudge, if I'm just Googling what Fitbit, what kind of a smartwatch I want to buy, and out there when I'm just researching, I cannot have messaging saying buy smartwatch at 34,000. That's not really going to work. So what kind of a messaging is going to work on a see, think, do, care? If I'm in a thinking stage and I'm really contemplating, reviewing, doing the competition analysis, at that point in time, if the message comes to me saying, these are the products which even other people are also buying and reviewing, that is something going to interest me. When I go and start buying on an e-commerce platform, and if I get a nudge message saying only 2 samples are left, only 2 units are left, that is going to make me do the purchase. And then there is a care, like how you go reach out to the consumer and then nudge him again that, hey, you bought this product now. This is something, a different product which can, complete your personality, a travel personality, and why don't you buy accessories, one of the accessories. So this is how you have to have a relevant messaging at which stage the consumer is in his journey, and the different kind of a messaging can work.
Sure. But before that, I just want to invite on stage Nishant Podar. He's the CMO and Head of Retail Experience at US Polo. Please welcome him with a huge round of applause. We missed having you earlier. In fact, I announced you. Let me, okay, sure. But after Akila, we're going to ask you, Nishant.
Apologies, everyone. I was part of the other sessions. Took slightly longer for me to get relief from there. So apologies once again.
Yeah, go on, Akila.
So, talking about data, I think as a marketer, because, while most of the panel has spoken about data as a means to sell or increase the business value, as a marketer, I think what has changed for me as data is the immediacy with which one can test the creatives. It's so immediate to know which creative is working, what headlines are working. The feedback comes back pretty soon. The A/B testing works. And also the retargeting bit, I think, which we were talking about, where you know what a customer has bought and what prompted them to buy. I mean, which of your creatives worked. So you can create almost, as many adaptations as you want on GDNs. And you will also get to know which one's working. So as a marketer, I think, basis what we are used to, this is a big plus point with digital marketing.
Sure. Nishant, you want to add something to this?
Sure. Let me start with a fact that a recent study reveals that about 15% of an average an average user on social media would spend 15% of their active life, which is awakened life, doing social media or, transacting stuff or doing, spending time on, social feeds and stuff, right? This is a hardcore fact, and this is only going to grow from here now on until 2025, when it's expected to grow, at a 10% on an average. The current social, media platform is largely divided with or, led by 3 content pieces, or how I would like to put it is the 3 C's, which is content, community, and commerce. The entire, digital media is largely encapsulated with these 3 C's. And I think brands at large have to ensure that they pick each of these elements right, position it right so that they can get the maximum out of it. I think most of the panelists have added to whatever I wanted to add. But I think these 3 points are very, very essential for any brand to hone on to. And I think if done right, brands can take advantage out of it.
Sure. Another point that I want to talk about is influencers in social media marketing. So how is it that all of you look at influencers to take your product forward in the market? What is it that you expect when you hire an influencer and put them on the job? And what kind of outcomes do you look for? And largely, from a social media space, what do you think now works in social media? So who wants to go first? Abhishek, you want to go?
I can start.
Okay, go on.
Yeah, no, this is good. So the first, I think all of us know this, the reason that you have taken influencers versus advertising on your own is because you're looking for credibility, you're looking for a credible source of communicating the brand message to a set of consumers. So, we are of the belief that influencer marketing is not a mass media phenomena. Many times you hear marketers wanting to go with influencers with the largest mass reach. It absolutely defeats the purpose, because what you're really looking out to do is create credibility in your set of or your segment of consumers. So very important, I think the basics of marketing, you need to start from that. You need to start from the segment that you're looking to reach out to. Select a set of influencers or, somebody who adds or lends themselves to the credibility of that. So that is a very, very important thing. Something, I'll give you an example. In MTR, we're in the food business, right? So let's say I go to Vijayawada and, I have a consumer that I have a set of consumers I want to target in a city like Vijayawada, and I want to sell this recently launched paneer masalas in Vijayawada, right? I could go to a national chef who comes with a lot of numbers and a lot of credibility at a national level. But a homemaker in Vijayawada, does she relate or connect to that particular chef at a national level, or will she connect to a micro-influencer or a set of micro-influencers who understand her food needs, her ability to cook a slightly alien dish which she is not used to cooking on her everyday basis? So what will lend that credibility? And that's a very important factor, especially in a brand that is well penetrated, that you segment and then you select a set of influencers versus taking a very mass reach sort of a approach.
While choosing any influencer, first of all, we just need to understand the basic nature of our product. Like we are into staples, we are into impulse, we are into beverages. Let's take an example of staple. If we are selling rice, now take an example of celebrity A and B. Celebrity A, who is having a very much fan following into the age group of 18 to 25 or maybe 30. Now, if we are talking about celebrity B, where celebrity B is having a great fan following at the age group of between 32 to 40, 45 or 50. Now, if we are talking about the nature of product, so nature of product is rice, which is generally using in households, right? Now understand what is the TG. If we are taking celebrity A, so celebrity A who is having a range of 18 to 25 of our customers. So I might not believe that they are going into the kitchen every day, or maybe they are procuring rice from the retailer, right? So this is why we would like to go for the celebrity B. So understanding the nature of the product and fan following of the influencer is very much important.
Sure.
I would just like to add one point. Obviously, when one selects the influencers, and for Samsonite and American Tourister, we really believe that all our influencer marketings have really helped us. While you choose the brand fit and the reach and the engagement, I think very most important thing is giving the free hand to the influencer, lending his own personality and doing it in his own style, because at the end of the day, it's a content, and it's given that everybody thinks that it's a sponsored content. As long as it's a sponsored content, it's good, they're going to watch it and dwell deeper on it or act on it. So it's very important that, the influencers lends his own style and do the justice to the brand's objective.
Yeah, go on.
I just have a point here, because having gone through this process of selecting influencers, I think for brands it's very important to be also very careful about the kind of influencers, because I've also seen where, we've gone with an influencer who's done Organic India and talked health, and the next day is visiting a samosa joint and talking about, how greasy, oily is good. So a lot of times it also calls for complete caution, because while the influencer strategy is a good way to reach out to their base of followers, it is also something that is going to lend a personality to your brand. And therefore, I think what influencer marketing really is doing is driving the personality of your brand core. And that we need to be very careful that there is at least an 80% fit between the influencer personality and what they stand for and the brand personality.
That's really important, actually.
So
we've
you
also
want to
faced that.
talk about influencers? Can we pass on one mic that side? Yeah.
I would like to just add to a perspective. Having worked, we have Virat Kohli as the brand face for our brand Wrong, right? He is amongst the top 10 most followed celebrity in the world. With Wrong Tribe ecosystem operating at about 450 million fan base. I think it's imperative that we divide this. What the influencer or celebrity leads to the brand, right? And there has to be an apt fitment, which is very, very essential. And it needs to be a reciprocal process. It cannot be just the brand driving something out of it, because humans, in general, needs that nudge, needs that advice, whether it is we taking advice from our parents or our spouses, we need that nudge, we need that validation of anything. Influences do help, making that choice. And I think it's like a word of mouth in the digital world, right? So I think we should take that out. Yes, selling works. It works great for selling. It works great for discoverability. But I think marrying both the celebrity and brand will be a very, very essential space. That's what I would like to add.
Absolutely. So I've been told that we are almost out of time, but I'd like to ask one last question from you is that, and I think you touched upon it just a little bit in terms of saying that, how do we sort of, while we understand there is customer data and, we want to make more decisions based on it, but how do you also at the same time look at their privacy? You don't want to be too much into their lives, and they don't want you to be too much in their lives either, sometimes I get quite spooked when sometimes I'm thinking something and it suddenly pops up on my screen. You don't like that so much. Initially it was kind of nice, but now it's sort of not that great, because you feel that, you're almost living a public life by thinking privately. So, where does one brand draw a line and say that, we're not going to stretch beyond it? Or do you think that line doesn't exist, it only exists in talks?
Well, so to add to Ritu's point, I think she's very right. I'm sure all of us have had that journey where our phone's always listening to us, and I think that theory does exist beyond a point. But at the same time, when we talk of data privacy, we talk of where to draw the line in terms of reaching out to the client. I personally believe it's to the extent of the engagement that you'd like to believe that your brand can support the client with. Because there are certain brands where we've seen that the engagement is beyond the necessary. I mean, 3 weeks ago, we've read the news where a particular store has had an issue because they were insisting on a mobile number and an email address to issue and generate a bill, which is actually a client privacy. And it's a physical store and there's absolutely no need to do it. And the brand insisted it, and a very popular one. And it of course made it to the news, where now I think that there will be a law and Data Privacy Act that has come in 2019. We're definitely going to an amendment to even find out the fine tunes of what is it that of customers' data should be taken and is essential for use. At the same time, while we even talk of influencer data, there's also a breach on influencer data. You see these numbers, and as Nishant rightly mentioned, Virat Kohli, of course, but there are many other influencers who have inflated numbers that even make brands believe that this is the right outreach for you to grow your presence and sale. And Prerna very rightly even put that in totality. Now, I represent a beauty brand. Our brand is Beauty, Katie Professional. We're into shampoos, conditioners. So for us, while social engagement is important, influencer engagement is important, we still are in a school of thought right now where everyone wants to look real in their own skin and their own hair. So it's also important to reach out to the peers around you who become equally strong influencers of your brand for the long run and to build the customer trust and viability.
Sure. We'll take a couple of questions if there are. Yes, please. Can we pass on the mic there to the gentleman? Hurry up, please. You can take my mic if you need.
Hi, I'm Kavan, and our brand is Hellcat, and we are into the kidswear clothing category. So, like now and in the previous discussions, omni-channel was something that everyone stressed upon. So now currently we are maybe good in one channel. Maybe it might be e-commerce marketplaces. So we would want to increase our presence on multiple channels as well in order to bring that omni-channel ecosystem. So what are the things that a brand should focus upon, or what do you think is very much important in increasing the channels and also scaling the business in newer channels that we are going into?
So if I could answer, I think the first question that any brand should answer is, what is your source of business? Who is your consumer? Where do you source your business from? And where is the consumer present? Because ultimately, as a brand, at every level, at every stage of investment you make, you need to see what are the returns that you're getting on every leg of investment. So the good idea would be to first, it would always be a journey and not necessarily a one step. So you define those milestones, and you define them on the basis of what your source of business is and how you're looking to create value for the business as you're going along. So it becomes then a phased approach versus really going, let's say you're targeting millennials or you're targeting a metro-based consumer segment first. So that would, e-commerce could be a great means to sort of start there. As you expand your reach, you possibly would feel the need to go to a physical store, at a modern trade level, or even reach out to larger grocers across the offline space. So the online offline space, the omni-channel presence is not necessarily for everybody, but it is a journey which depends entirely on where are you sourcing your business from.
Thank you.
So one more input from my side. It is entirely important to understand the product line. So identification of channel is one thing, right? Then you have to analyze that which SKU is performing well on which platform. Then you have to go for a product mix, specifically platform-wise, because there are platforms who are selling B2B, there are platforms who are selling B2C, right? You just need to understand the nature of customer, because if you are selling on the Blinkit, you just sell something which has to be in the urgent need of a user, right? So you just need to understand the basic nature of a platform first. So this is how you can increase your channels.
Thank you.
Hi, Aditya this side from Green Honchos. So with the role of iOS 14 policies, retargeting has become a nightmare in iOS devices. So what are your strategies since Android is also planning to launch the same policies which restrict the cookies for third parties? How we are planning to use first party cookies to retarget and retain those customers?
I think you rightly mentioned it, and customer privacy is really going to become a really bigger, concern for all the advertisers. First and foremost is just having your secured website. I think consumers should feel safe, and the disclaimer or the permission has to be taken from the consumer to use the cookies. That's the number one. Number two would be working on your own offline data, which in Google we put it in a merchant center. So that data is to be collected, and as a Samsonite consumer, we have actually gone to each consumer, almost 58,000 consumers, and we've called them and we asked them whether they are giving us the permission. And those who have given us the permission, that data we are working on, and working on our cohorts consumer profiling and mapping the similar audience on the Google platform. For Amazon, anyways, I think it's by choice that the consumer is still dealing with marketplaces for their own benefit. And that data, although is not with us, but all the marketplaces are anyways taking good care on the privacy of the information of the consumer. It's not even available to the advertisers. So yeah, it's there is going to be a point where people will have to start probably from the scratch if these things are not in place, and start having the data collection process and then to reach out to them on a larger basis.
Have to close this session over here. Thank you very much, everyone. It's been such a great talk, and I think some real takeaways coming out of this talk where you've shared what all does it really take to hit the digital marketing and e-commerce, right? So thank you once again. We have a small memento we like to give to you before we wrap this session.
Sorry, Ritu, I'd just like to add a point right here. Ritu, I'd just like to add a point. Here, I'm on stage. Right here. I'd just like to add a point that, I was just thinking of the diversity of e-commerce and the unique power e-commerce has to offer. I mean, we have organic food and organic teas. We have cooking oil, meat, Samsonite bags, masalas, beauty and apparel all on stage, available to all of you 24/7 on your gadgets. I mean, that is the power that you need, and we all are essential products to your daily life. And all of it on your handset 24/7 is the true power that e-commerce actually has to offer. Absolutely. So I think that itself is a great diversity.
Huge round of applause on that, yes?
Thank you.
Certainly right there.